it just may be that it's a good thing that I'm skeptical at times, because this book blew me away. I went into Essential X-Men Volume 4 with my usual X-Men mindset. Yeah, okay, awesome characters with stories that just don't seem to be as awesome for me. Maybe that's because a lot of X-Men stuff I've read and the stuff I grew up with wasn't by Chris Claremont. But how I didn't somehow stumble upon one of the most important, influential, and dedicated writers sooner than like a year ago is beyond me. What I'm getting at is that Essential X-Men Volume 4 is great, fascinating, fantastic, much better than good. Collecting Uncanny X-Men number 162 through 179, Uncanny X-Men Annual number 7, and Marvel Graphic Novel number 5, written entirely by Claremont and drawn by a variety of artists like Paul Smith and John Romita Jr., this book is a must-read for any X-Men fan. Claremont's revolutionary and more mature writing style is what made the X-Men, well, popular. Right from the beginning arc, a bleak tale involving the Brood, Claremont's darker approach to comic writing is apparent. It's important to note that Claremont didn't suddenly make comic books more mature on his own. There are definitely writers and titles and factors that had their own contributions to the growing trend. But it is important to note that it was Claremont's approach to a superhero team created in the 60s, a time of incredible cheese, that made the X-Men popular. Anyways, after their dealings with the Brood, the X-Men have adventures in Japan, experience the apparent return of the Phoenix, attend the wedding of one of the founding members, come in contact with the subterranean mutants known as the Morlocks, witness a darker change in their current leader, welcome into their fold a former enemy, and much more. And I should write promos. I mean, I just did better than this broad overview. But what this all means, though, is that there is a lot of quality content in this book. Yes, it's an essential book, complete with black and white art that may annoy some people, but I gotta say, this just may be the best an essential book has looked. The efforts of the artists pay off, and especially Paul Smith and John Romita Jr.'s work stand out, quite equally as the best stuff in the book. Of course, they do most of the book, but that doesn't lessen the quality. Overall, though, it's Claremont's vision that pulls it all together. Dialogue is natural and humanizing, in the process immersing the reader into the book and drawing the characters together as a family. Plot points are pretty powerful and intriguing, but if there's any downside, it's a natural part of ongoing superhero books. There aren't really any lasting repercussions. Characters get away from danger, they survive, and if they don't, they come back somehow. I understand why it has to happen, and also why it's kind of annoying, but it doesn't lessen the book's appeal in the process of reading it. But there's one issue in here that goes against that grain, that really emphasizes X-Men's overall theme. Marvel Graphic Novel number 5 is a longer, standalone story that's just, simply put, fantastic. The faith-crazed Reverend Stryker's crusade against mutants is appalling, and by that token creates, well, emotion in the reader. Stryker is a definite villain, but Magneto's role in the story takes away that image from the X-Men's greatest enemy. That doesn't mean that learning more about Stryker isn't welcoming and interesting, especially since it further reinforces his villain role. And once learning the mastermind behind the beginning's despicable events, you want him taken down even more. And of course, without context, the story wouldn't be as powerful. Stryker's crusade against mutants is an interesting parallel to some of our world's greatest injustices, and an interesting afterword by Chris Claremont is a fantastic insight into his inspiration. Ultimately, Marvel Graphic Novel number 5 is the best issue in Essential X-Men Volume 4, but the entire book is a fascinating and compelling look into, arguably, one of the first great innovators in the industry, after Stan Lee, of course. Oh, and if things get too drama-heavy for you, there's always a fun fourth-wall-breaking annual about Impossible Man.